Hello there, and welcome to today's episode of the Easy EdTech Podcast. My name is Monica Burns, and I am so glad that you're here to join me today. If you want to make the most of education technology, aka EdTech, well, you are in the right place. My goal has always been to help make EdTech easier and give you ideas you can try yourself, share with a colleague, or bookmark for later in the school year. Every Tuesday here on the Easy EdTech Podcast, you'll hear stories from my time in the classroom, the work I do now with schools and districts, and my travels to different EdTech events. Get ready for solo episodes where I share some quick tips and stories, and interviews full of practical ideas and stories from new guests each month. If we mention something you'd like to check out, make sure to click the link. You'll find it in the episode description or the summary area where you're listening to this podcast, or you can find every episode and all of the resources we mention by going to classtechtips.com/podcast, or by going to classtechtips.com and just clicking on the Easy EdTech Podcast button at the top of the page. This episode is sponsored by my Amazon storefront. I've pulled together more than a dozen lists of my favorite gifts, books, and spring cleaning items for educators. My collections on Amazon make it easy to find all of my books written by Easy EdTech Podcast guests, and so much more. Use the link classtechtips.com/Amazon to go straight to my Amazon storefront. That's classtechtips.com/Amazon. This week's episode is titled 8 Ways to Use Education Books for Professional Learning. And this is actually a great pair to an episode that you will hear next week about running a virtual book club. I talked with Linda DeYoung all about her experience running a virtual book club. So today is all about ways to use education books for professional learning. Now, I am not one of those people who believes really strongly in New Year's resolutions. But for me, right, I really believe that you can choose your moment and just jump right in any time of year. But I do know that a new year is kind of a natural reminder to like, what's that thing I've been meaning to do? Or what is it that, I want to accomplish? Or you might have, a friend who's looking for an accountability partner, or you might be looking for an accountability partner for something, right? So the new year is a natural time for a reset. So if you're listening to this in the beginning of January, you might have that on your mind. Or if you listen to this episode later in the year, I really do believe, right, any time of year is great for picking up something new or making a commitment. Any day can be the first day for something. Now, for more than 6 years, or I guess more than 6 years. It's going to be 7 years. Is that possible this March? I guess so if I do the math, right? So 7 years I've had the privilege of hosting the Easy EdTech Podcast. It sounds like I'm about to say that we're, coming to the end or something, but that's not the case. I'm ready to keep going strong. And along the way, I've interviewed so many educators, leaders, and thought partners in the education space. And let me tell you, over the next few months, I've got more coming. I've recorded a few that are going to pop up. Like I mentioned, the one that'll be next week, and you are in for a treat for this beginning of 2026. Well, I'm sure the rest of the year will be fun too, but I just know who I've got on the calendar for this year, and at least the first chunk, and it's a lot of fun. So many of these folks, and you'll see it over the next couple months on the schedule, I've interviewed are authors. They've written books. Some of them are fellow ASCD and ISTE authors. Some of them have published other publishers, and they all are really focused on things you can do right away, right? Whether it's related to strategies for classroom teaching, instructional leadership, topics related to ed tech. In this past year, I've interviewed folks, right, who've shared lots of different things related to student projects or strategies related to AI integration. One of my favorites from this fall was about classroom strategies that are mistake friendly. You might have caught episode 336 all about that. I've got more coming up with authors who talk about what it looks like to have career technical education be part of your work. You'll see that pop up this spring around news literacy. That's another conversation that's on the schedule for this spring. So, I love talking to people who are passionate about what they do, and oftentimes people who are passionate write books. And so to make it easier to explore these resources, I made a curated collection with dozens, over 100 titles from educators around the world who I've had on the podcast. I put it in a collection on Amazon. I'll link out to it. But today's episode isn't about all of those books. You can go take a peek at them, see what, grabs your attention, piques your interest. Today's episode is really about ways to use education books for professional learning. And there's no one right way to use EdTech or education books for professional development. You might read a book on your own, explore one with a team, use it as the foundation for a professional learning session. But in today's episode, in this list, I've got a handful of ways that you can use professional development books throughout the school year, whether you're diving into a brand new topic or revisiting a familiar one with some fresh eyes. So let's get into our list of 8 ways to use education books for professional learning. So the first way to use an education book for professional learning is reading on your own. Sometimes the best way to dive into a new idea is to read at your own pace. A professional learning book can sit on your desk or live in your backpack, ready for you whenever you have a few quiet minutes. Solo reading lets you highlight takeaways, revisit sections, and reflect on how the ideas connect to your work. Of course, you might decide to schedule some time on your calendar to keep you moving through that book, but many books also have study guides that you can use on your own. You'll even find the study guide to my book, EdTech Essentials, the second edition, as a free thing you can download straight from my website. You can go to classtechtips.com/study guide and find it. And lots of books that are in the professional learning space have a study guide or questions in the back that are great if you're doing some solo reading. Next up is reading with a group, and book clubs, they're popular for a reason. Reading with colleagues gives you a chance to discuss new ideas, hear different perspectives, whether it's a grade level team or a professional learning group. A shared reading experience can lead to some rich conversations and maybe some new ways to collaborate as you put ideas into action. I've shared some favorite book club strategies in the past. Like I mentioned, next week I have an interview with an awesome educator who runs a lot of virtual book clubs, but you might already have a group you're part of, or you want to form if you find the best or perfect book for a topic that you're already discussing as a group and maybe want to make it a bit more formal. Number 3 on our list of 8 is revisiting a topic you haven't looked at recently. Professional development books are great for circling back to topics you might have explored years ago. Revisiting a topic like differentiation, classroom management, project-based learning could give you a fresh take or some new strategies you haven't considered before or you haven't considered in a while. If you're coaching another educator, you might even want to consider reading a book on your own or with your mentee to jump into a kind of new for them topic that you are revisiting. Now, instead of revisiting a topic that you've had some experience with in the past, number 4 on our list is learning something new. That might be one way to use an education book for professional learning. Now, some books are packed with brand new frameworks or innovative approaches. You might pick up a title that introduces a concept you've never heard of or dives into part of the education world you don't usually explore. One of the things I love about book lists, that's why I put together that big list from from folks that have been on the podcast is that you might find something you would have never searched for otherwise. I find when I listen to a new podcast episode, if there's a compelling guest, I like to check out a new book they mentioned in their interview. This goes for education topics and beyond, because I've gotten to hear their voice a little bit about their story, and it helps me, go even deeper, kind of like a head start, if you will. Next step is staying up to date with new strategies. The education landscape is always evolving. Some of it might feel circular, like, oh, we're trying out this again, or trendy, but books written by current educators or researchers often include some of the latest thinking around a topic, around pedagogy, policy, tech integration. And a new book might introduce an idea you can use right away or spark some inspiration for your next unit that you're teaching. And although listening to a podcast interview might give you some ideas to start with, right, to then go run with, you can go into a deeper dive into those strategies by exploring a book that the author has written. Like I mentioned, I put together that big book list from guests from the podcast because I know sometimes people want to go a little bit further into some of these strategies. And I often have authors who have a new book that just came out on the podcast. So it's a great way to find some new titles. Speaking of new, you might want to use an education book to explore new frameworks. Some books introduce a specific framework or methodology or have a clear connection to a concept like UDL, Universal Design for Learning, or a new model for tech integration. Reading through an author's explanation and examples can help you understand how to apply that framework in your own school or classroom. Now, another way to use education books for professional learning is to hear some new voices in the education space. Books give you a chance to hear from educators with different backgrounds and experiences, and you might even find it helps you connect with an educator in another part of the world or learn from a school leader working in a very different context from your own. Now, many authors of educational books have a social media presence too, and so this way you can keep following along with their work even after you finish reading. Some have newsletters or other ways to stay connected throughout the year too. Now, finally, number 8 on our list of ways to use education or EdTech books is to give a gift to a colleague. Now, you might think, okay, we're at the start of the new year, the traditional gifting season is over, but maybe you decide that this is for a teacher appreciation week or for the end of the school year instead, or just because kind of present. Now, books make great gifts for fellow educators. So if a title made an impact on your professional development, you might pass it along to someone who might benefit from it too. Whether it's a lightly used copy, a brand new book, or a gift card with some reading recommendations, you can keep the learning going and show appreciation to a colleague at the same time too. So plenty of ways to use education books for professional learning. If you have a favorite book or a favorite way that you've shared a book, perhaps with a colleague, let me know. You can always reply to my weekly newsletter. I read all those emails, or send me a message on Instagram. You name it, I'll get it. And I would love to hear from you. So let's make this EdTech easy with a few key points from today's episode. Read education books independently to learn at your own pace. Form a book club with colleagues to discuss new ideas and perspectives. Revisit older topics or explore new frameworks through professional development books. And gift a relevant education book to a colleague to share some learning. Remember, you can find the show notes and the full list of resources from today's episode by heading to easyeducapodcast.com and finding today's episode, number 352. And if you're listening to this in the very first week of the year, I hope that your 2026 is off to a good start. Wishing you the best this year and hoping for lots more fun episodes and interviews to share with you. This episode is sponsored by my Amazon storefront. I've pulled together more than a dozen lists of my favorite gifts, books, and spring cleaning items for educators. My collections on Amazon make it easy to find all of my books written by Easy EdTech Podcast guests, and so much more. Use the link classtechtips.com/Amazon to go straight to my Amazon storefront. That's classtechtips.com/Amazon. Thank you for listening to this new episode of the Easy EdTech Podcast. I love creating new episodes for you each week, but I could use a bit of help spreading the word about the podcast. Can you leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast app? Spotify will let you tap on the stars, and Apple Podcasts will let you tap on the stars and leave a 1 or 2 sentence review. Thank you so much for taking this extra step. It helps other educators find episodes like this one when they're searching for EdTech tips.